Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Whiskey Boy podcast. What are we calling it? The Whiskey Lounge, right, Nick?
Yeah, we're going at the Whiskey Lounge, baby.
Today, I'm going to introduce my one friend, Nick. Unfortunately, Trevor is sick as a dog. Wyatt still being a bitch, but that's all right. Doesn't bother me much. Today, we're going to talk about one thing today. Lot to talk about, lot to unpack with it. Um, Chinese spy balloon. Beautiful, beautiful eye in the sky that we've had for a few days here now. It's finally been shot down as it got a little close to Ukraine. Wait, that they my apologies. I have a Babylon B article up in front of me. Let me take that down. Yes, yeah. Anyway, yes. The Chinese spy balloon, our eye in the sky. Nick, why don't you start this one off?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It got a little bit too close to Ukraine, so we finally pulled the plug and went out to take that bitch down. But yeah, so there's a lot of implications with this. Like, there is a lot of stuff that we need to unpack with this. First off, why did we allow this balloon, which was quote unquote civilian, according to the Chinese Communist Party or the Chinese government, saying that it was just civilian, it was just a weather balloon, that there's nothing to worry about. Why did we let it go across the country for as many days as we did, getting the entire way across over top of all of our military bases, across all of our indus- industrial zones, over across of everything in America? Why would we let it go as far as we did in our own sovereign airspace? Why didn't we do anything about this, Brandon?
Well, it's one of two things. It's either incompetence or compliance, as well as I don't know if you know, but it actually flew over Alaska and then flew over whatever ocean that is. I'm not the brightest bulb. And they knew about it while it was. So if they wanted to just shoot it down over an ocean, they could have then, or over a body of water, they could have then. So it's either incompetence or compliance.
I'd say it's probably a little bit of both of incompetence and compliance, like probably trying to avoid escalating tensions between China and the US, trying to avoid having any kind of extra proxy wars, quote unquote, with China going after Taiwan. We don't want to have any more proxy wars where the US is on two different sides for both fighting against Russia and China at the same time. And I don't know. I don't see the logic in why we would have allowed the balloon to fly over the entirety of the U.S., getting all the information it could, because I guarantee it had some kind of surveillance
It
systems on it.
it's
One
like,
hundred
well,
percent.
I believe that's confirmed. It was likely sending things back in real time as well. My personal belief is perhaps it's some sort of new technology that can take a look a little bit under the ground, some sort of I don't think you'd say sonar, maybe infrared, anything like that. Because it would stop and it would hover above military bases and nuclear silos and things like that from its trip from Montana all the way over to South Carolina.
And I know the New York Times released an article, I believe it was today, talking about how the Chinese balloon had tools to collect communication signals. So says the U.S.
It
So
also
if the
had
U,
explosives on it to blow itself up.
I never saw anything confirming the explosives, so I'm going to have to take your word on that one because I did not. There
It,
have
it
been so many articles about it. I have not seen the
I, I
explosive article.
I'm pretty sure it was confirmed in an article. You are right that all the articles have said they believe. I think I saw one the other day that said it was confirmed, and I wouldn't say it's too far a stretch to say that there was at least enough to knock itself out.
Eh, Regardless the fact on whether or not it had explosives or not, when like you said at the beginning of the show, that it went from Alaska over top of the, I believe that's part of the Pacific Ocean, coming back to America or the mainland, the U.S. We had plenty of time to shoot it down between Alaska and reaching the U.S. How even if we were to shoot it down while it was over Alaska, what's it going to hit? Is it going to hit at some strange bear or some strange moose
Well, same in
in the
Montana. What's it
countryside?
gonna hit? It's gonna hit a cow.
Yeah, it's going to hit a cow. It's
Oh, the cow's
terrible
a
that
spread
we.
for the next guy, but
Well, honestly, with the price of eggs these days, losing a cow would probably be detrimental to the farmer.
y- yeah, you're probably right. They are off topic. They are smuggling eggs over the Mexican border. You know.
I saw that. I saw that. I mean, in it makes no sense. I mean, why would we be smuggling eggs across the border except for the fact that eggs are at national highs that we have never seen before? But
Well, what's
a little
interesting
off
there
topic.
is they claim, just to touch on it real quick, they claim that the price of eggs is based off of some sort of disease going
Oh,
around with the
the
chickens.
avian flu.
Yeah, the avian flu. But the fact that people are just smuggling them over the border, that's indicative of a policy issue.
So you can take a look at the avian flu being the reason and just poke a hole right through it. So you mean to tell me that the flu stops at the border? You mean to
Yeah,
tell me that the
exactly.
avian flu stops right there and right when it sees the Mexican border? It's like, oh no, we're not going to go any further over this way. If
A
only COVID
little,
worked like that.
yeah, yeah, I know, right? Oh goodness. Back on topic to the Chinese spy balloon though. They found one in Latin America as well. I think Trevor, sick as a dog, but he did tell us beforehand they saw one over Taiwan too, if I'm correct.
Uh, Let me take a look at that right now.
Either way, they've been popping up all over the place. This apparently also isn't the first time it has happened. I personally don't believe they flew over to US under the Trump administration. I think that's a flat out lie. But I can see how they've been in other places in the past.
I mean, it. So I know we talked about this a little bit in the pre-show, and I know you all had your opinions on with the fact that if it did happen, that the balloons are so high up in the air and not everyone would see it and blah blah blah. Well, how many good days? I'm going to go back to my argument again because I think it's important. How many good days did the mainstream media give Trump in his entire presidency?
Precisely zero.
Okay, so I know that we have to deal with anonymous records, anonymous people citing what happened. Everything is on anonymity, so we don't know whether it's true or not. If Trump never got a single good day while he was in office, why should we believe that this news breaking story that's been across all the headlines now for about a week? Why was everyone just silent about it during the Trump years? If he never got a good day, wouldn't you think that the mainstream media would have tried to jump on this as soon as they were able to? Now, I understand that there were records that just came up that was just found from anonymous sources. But if you have three named officials from the Trump years saying that this never happened, why should we believe the anonymous sources?
Well, you shouldn't. All things considered, you just shouldn't.
No, I agree with you. I'm trying to think in the mindset of these mainstream elites of this corrupt administration, thinking that people are just that dumb to just believe everything they say. It just baffles my mind.
Unfortunately, a lot of people probably are. I wouldn't be surprised if, certain members of my family who are a little more liberal, if I even brought this up as a conversation, if they'd just be like, "Oh, it happened under Trump too," and then yeah, it's just that, and they probably wouldn't listen to anything I have to say about anonymous officials and naming officials. They'd be like, "That's just malarkey and semantics."
And also to talk about what White was saying earlier about the Chinese balloon over Taiwan. According to CNN, I believe this came out. This came out 2 days ago, I believe. Yes, the CNN obtained images of Chinese spy balloons recently shot back down by the U.S. hovering over Taiwan in recent months. So yes, it they have been shown to be over Taiwan and over other places. Now, I have a theory. Got to get your tinfoil hat on. I have a theory about what the real reason behind these balloons are, if you want to hear it.
Sure, go on.
So, I'm going to try to use an analogy on it about gun-free zones. So if somebody wants to go out and they want to commit a crime and they've already put their mind to it, what's to stop them from adding an extra gun charge onto that crime? Is there anything really stopping them? Are they going to be worried about said charge before they
I
go out and do what
suppose
they're going to
not.
do? Okay. China has stated multiple times that Taiwan is a part of China and that they have this goal that they want to reunify Taiwan with mainland China.
Yeah,
So
the
if
China
it
policy.
so if China is already willing to do that, and you had President Biden come out, I believe it was like 4 or 5 months ago, and when the big issues was going on when Nancy Pelosi was flying over to Taiwan for a diplomatic mission. If China has already come to terms with the US backing Taiwan, why would they care about pissing us off now with sending balloons over if they're already prepared to engage in a conflict with us? I mean,
Yeah,
it
I
just seems.
believe it. That's what I've been saying the last few days. And interestingly enough, I don't know if you caught it, but that thing you were talking about from a few months ago, Biden in the same sentence says, "We agree with a one China policy, but we also see the sanctity of Taiwan and want to see a peaceful resolution to the reunification or something like that." It was whatever it was ridiculous. He contradicted himself quite literally within like 10 seconds.
I mean, the only real reason the U.S. is willing to defend Taiwan as much as we are right now is not for any kind of benevolent means. It is
Of
strictly
course.
because of the chip production right now.
Yeah,
If
of
if
course.
we were to lose if we were to lose Taiwan, yeah, Taiwan to today or tomorrow, the U.S. would be screwed. We don't have no chip production whatsoever in this country, so we would have
Well,
to be
what would
getting all of our.
happen is we'd have
Go,
to get them from China then, and they would
yes,
just get them from China, and
with
we're already honestly, we're already really indebted to China through our government, but it would just be worse. Way worse.
Oh yeah, it would be worse, yes, but how many back doors is China going to put through in all those computer chips that they send over here?
A hundred
I mean, oh,
thousand,
100%
100,000.
in every chip, 100,000 back doors in every chip.
Well,
Yes,
there already has been backdoors with things. What was it? I think we got like subway trains or something, or normal trains from China, and there were freaking cameras in them. What else was it?
I
There was
know.
something about cameras at the White House, and those cameras at the White House, Big D got them taken down because they were transmitting shit to China. A lot of weird shit like that that you'd think would just
Well,
almost be an act of war in and of itself.
well, I know back when Trump was president, I believe it was an executive order that he put down, saying that the U.S. infrastructure in the energy sector would not use any kind of Chinese-made products. That they would not be using. I believe it was had to do with power pylons and all of that to use in the US, that we refused to use it because China had been they had proven that China was using backdoor software to get into uh said said pylons to be able to shut them off if ever need be. So Trump shut that down instantly because he knew our infrastructure couldn't handle it if any kind of conflict did break out with China. But within the first few months of the Biden administration coming in, they got rid of that. So if you have a known issue of backdoors being put into all of our technology, why would you ease up on the restrictions for said backdoors to allow foreign countries to be able to come in and basically walk all over us if anything ever happens?
Yeah. And I will say there is microchip production in other places. The U.S. is starting to create microchips themselves more so than not. It's obviously not just about microchips. That's a part of it, but there's a lot more going on there.
Oh yes, 100%. There's always more information out there than what the government gives the public. They only allow us to see just the surface level of everything, and some people are able to dig a slightly deeper than surface level, but for the most part there are things that are going on behind the scenes that you and I could not even fathom. I mean, just just think about it like this: the FBI agent who's probably listening to us right now, he's probably sitting back in his chair just laughing, saying, "If these people only knew."
I'm sure. He's one of the 2 viewers.
Yes, he's one of the 2 viewers, yes, but still, yeah, I guarantee that just from the topics that we've covered, while yes, we're still small, that they're topics that are monitored very closely by the US.
Oh, I'm sure. We probably got flagged the moment we posted. Hell, we
Oh,
probably got flagged before we even started doing this, knowing us.
probably
Me
100%.
me especially. Oh my
But
goodness.
yeah,
So what is your opinion on the Chinese spy balloon? Do you think that this was purely surveillance? Do you think this was a test run for something else like test our reaction? Do you think they were looking for information on our silos and such and such? Give your opinion.
well, if it was for surveillance, I would go hand in hand for trying to find out troop placements that go hand in hand with trying to figure out what our air bases look like, so on, etc. This is probably also it probably culminates between all of them, if you think about it.
Mm.
It's a test run to see how the U.S. would react to it, on whether or not on how far we would allow the balloon to get firsthand. We'd let it get across our entire goddamn country for that. They would probably also use this if conflict were to ever break out between the US and China, or if China were to actually go on the offensive against Taiwan, to see what kind of reaction we would have. Like, if we had any kind of reaction on whether or not we were going to go defend Taiwan as soon as we hear about it, China wants to know about that. They would want to know the timeline that they have to take over that island. And if they can have a balloon over the sky when that happens in certain key areas where we would have the quickest reaction to it, it's done. They'd be able to know it's coming before we even move. So I'd say it's a culmination of everything you just mentioned. What
I
about
can
you?
see that. I I'm I I'm not big on Tim Pool, as you know, but you kind of introduced me to his stuff, and I was watching a lot of his stuff for the balloon. I have to agree with him, kind of where he says the EMP. I'm big with I don't want to say I'm afraid of EMPs, but it's in my mind it's the most likely scenario. He was saying something about in the Cold War they would use these balloons, but they could get them up to crazy altitudes. I think like 150,000 feet is the maximum, and I also think that's like the maximum range for an EMP. And
Hmm.
I like to read. There's this book series that I love. 1 second after, then 1 year after, and the final day would be the other two. But it's all about what if the U.S. was hit by an EMP. And something that always stayed with me though was the end of the first book has like an epilogue or like an
Hmm.
afterword from some Navy commander in real life, basically saying, "Don't take this book lightly because this is very possible." And I was like, "Oh fuck." I read that book when I was like 14, so I was just like, "Oh fuck, don't tell me that." So I think it's might be some sort of test run. Who knows if we let it go over us for like a week, it could have been carrying some sort of payload and looking for its target. Bringing next thing you know, we don't have one balloon, we have 60 balloons popping up out of nowhere. They all of them having a target, and you don't know what we're gonna do. Are we gonna do anything?
With how hectic this administration is and how unwilling we were to respond to it, it seems like if anything were to happen like that in the U.S. today, we wouldn't do anything. We would sit on our hands and just let it all happen. That's what it feels like to me with how poorly run everything is right now. And I know that you and I do not are not privy to the insider information that goes on in the White House every day, how even in the intelligence agencies every day, but we're able to see what it's like for the everyday common people to live, how they have to live in the way that everything seems to just it seems like a disaster. It seems like there's no cohesion. It's all just controlled chaos, if you could even call it controlled.
Yeah, control isn't the word I'd use, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, no, it's all just total insanity, if you ask me.
Oh yes. Oh yes, 100%. It is complete insanity, and I'm I'm truly afraid to see what's going to happen, hell, in the next 2, 3 years, hell, even the next few months. Because I guarantee that China's going to start ramping up their aggression towards Taiwan. They've already had,
They already have, yeah.
yeah, they've been playing war games with Taiwan nonstop now, pretty much for the last several months. And it just seems like every war game they play with them, it just gets gradually worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, we're drawing closer to the, how would you say, the drop of the hat. The hat's gonna drop, the coin's gonna drop, whatever the expression is. Like it's we draw closer and closer every single day. I remember when it was like a far out thing, something you knew that was gonna happen, but it was like, ah, China's not gonna invade Taiwan for a while. But I think they really probably looked at Ukraine and were like, wow, this guy's a bumbling idiot in the White House.
Oh,
Either he's a bumbling idiot or wow, this this guy's been good for us. If it's compliance, yeah, it's been this guy's been a good puppet for us. Hell yeah, let's go take Taiwan back. It's
yeah. It's it's nutty. I mean, when there were reports back when Trump was still in office, how when he went to go talk to Vladimir Putin, and when he went to go talk to Xi Jinping, he told Putin that if he were to engage on Ukraine, he'd nuke Moscow. And he did the same thing with Xi Jinping, saying that he would nuke
take
Beijing.
Taiwan, I will nuke Beijing.
And in a lot of ways, the way that the media made Trump seem probably helped exemplify the fact where these world leaders were like, he probably won't do it, but there's like a 10% chance that he just might be crazy enough to do that. So
Damn
that
well, he'll be
10% was just enough to prevent them from going further. And look at what happened right when this new administration goes in. They go after him. They finally bite the bullet. They wait to see how things are. They see the U.S. in such a weakened state, and they're like, you know what? We're going to attack. Russia made the first move. It's only a matter of time before China makes their move.
Yeah, no, I could see it. I can definitely see it. This is it's a very interesting and crazy world, and it's baffling that people don't see the correlation. How they don't see the correlation to Biden's presidency and this whole like Democrat takeover and everything that's happening the last 2 years. Baffling,
Oh
but
yes,
people are just a little foolish.
I'm trying to look up the phenomenon that it's called, the where if the major power in the world is challenged, it almost always ends in war between the rising power and the current top power. I cannot remember the phenomenon that it's called, but in the last hmm?
But it has a word.
Yes, it does have a word. I cannot remember it to save my life right now. But out of the 12 out of the last 15 times where a the current world power was challenged by the upstart, the young and ready to go power that's trying to soar up, 12 of the last 15 times it has ended in all out war. And I'm terrified that that's where things are going right now between the US and China. And I don't see any other way for it to change. And right now, with how culturally divided the US is, I don't think we'd survive it. I really don't.
I'm I'm not much of a pessimist, as you know. I think America can't die because America exists as an idea, as this great, wonderful idea. I don't think that anyone could ever move in and like take over the continental United States. I think maybe they can really mess us up. I believe the statistic actually. I know Tim Pool was talking about it the other day on his thing, where if say they got the lights out. Ooh, excuse me. Say they put the lights out with an EMP within a year, 90% of people would be dead. Is the believed number, which is crazy to me. But I think those 10% who would survive and the children and the grandchildren of those people would simply just never back down, and there would never be anyone who could take the US from them, in
It's
my
not
opinion.
it's not about taking the US. It's not about taking the land from the US. It's about destroying the more morale in the US, destroying the thought of the world that the US is the top dog like we have been for how many decades. And the reason why I'm talking about the cultural divide with the bifurcation in America, we're seeing the great. Do you know what the Greater Idaho Project is?
I do not.
Okay, so the Greater Idaho Project is a bunch of counties, and I believe it is one of the states neighboring Idaho. Are getting together to vote to secede to join Idaho. And right now, I believe it's going through the Supreme Court. It's Oregon. Oregon is the state where these counties are trying to secede
Join
into.
Idaho.
Yes, and to join Idaho. But these are counties who are the farm counties, the counties where it's pretty much rural throughout and not
Populated.
very populated. So the people who live in these counties are run by the people who get elected by by the people who live in the big city. So culturally, the people don't care about the agricultural base of Oregon, and those people in those counties just want to join Idaho because Idaho is much more agriculturally based, and they share a common culture. But you're seeing this throughout the whole of the US where the big cities dictate how the states go, how the states vote, how the states are represented. And my biggest fear is that we're going to see such a bifurcation and we're going to see so many more instances of this, of secession trying to join other states, where you're going to have such a terrible cultural divide. No one's going to have any kind of unifying vision, that the country is just going to eat itself out from the inside. That's my biggest fear, is the country eating itself out from the inside.
I can see that, the vast difference in culture. This push for the last hell for the last 50 years or so, 50 plus years or so, for this awful like hyper sexualized and worship of the self and narcissistic culture, kind of like we were talking about the other day. Is it's ruining what America was, and what it should remain. So I could see what you're saying there. It's almost like it's too polarized.
Oh yes, I mean, hell, just take a look at men nowadays. Take a look at how demasculinized the men of this country is. It the best way that you can put it into words for like studies or anything like that is the United States Marine Corps has done grip test grip strength tests since its creation, and they have the longest sample size that we can use for grip strength, which is directly linked to testosterone, which is directly linked to just masculine traits in the US for men. What percentage do you think we have of grip strength from 50 years ago today? Like, do you
I want to give a good guess, and I'm gonna blame seed oils. I'm unironically gonna blame seed oils. So from when to today?
50 years ago to today?
50 years ago today, I'm gonna say it's 70% of a difference.
We only have 30%. You were correct. We only have 30% of the grip strength that we used to have 50 years ago.
So I was right. I was
Yes.
spot
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
I was
You were
spot
spot
on,
on.
and it's all
Now,
because of the damn seed oils and the microplastics.
I'm not going to specifically say what the issue is, because that's a entirely different beast to open up. But you can just see the cultural decay. You can see how idle people are. We don't have one unifying vision anymore. The only unifying vision we could say is, "Ha ha, we're Americans, yeah," but that's about it.
but this other side wouldn't even want to do that. And I say, we didn't have too much planned because we're missing two of our people. But let's get into this since we're here. I think we've said enough on the balloon. Let's kind of on this for a little while. So I said before, blame the seed oils, and I know you hear that from a lot of loony folks sometimes, but there's a direct correlation to a drop in testosterone and like vegetable oil and canola oil and that nonstick stuff, or even like your Tupperware and the microplastic is from putting it in the microwave. It's very interesting, like a significant drop in sperm count and testosterone. It's
Hmm.
sanity.
Oh yeah, it's the endocrine disruptors, especially that you see in all the plastics. They are really royally messing with all of our all of our hormones. I mean, testosterone has greatly dropped off. I'm sure estrogen levels within men have greatly increased because of all the endocrine disruptors. It's quite terrifying. I'm terrified to see the difference in our military strength because of it. It's terrifying.
I know, definitely. I definitely agree. It's it's very interesting, all this sort of like slice of life stuff, vegetable oil. I certainly, since I've been on my own, and we of course for a while were we had the apartment. I kind of dropped off of vegetable oil. I still have like a thing of it for certain foods just in case, cuz olive oil is fucking expensive. And olive oil isn't the worst for you. But so I have a little bit of vegetable oil, but I try to not use it as much as possible. I have practically no Tupperware. I've started buying glass stuff, or like I save my glass jars and I just use them
It's
for the sake of my bloodline.
I mean, if you look at birth rates throughout the US, it has been steadily declining year after year after year to the point to where it's very scary. We're starting to get to the point to where we're not bringing in new people to add to the population. What's going to happen when we all grow old? We're not going to have any young people to be able to take on any of the industry that needs to be done. I mean, hell, just look at all the businesses around the US that have now hiring signs outside of their window.
Yeah, everyone.
What
My business too.
what's going to happen if we keep going down this path where all these endocrine disruptors can continue, our sperm count keeps going down? What's going to happen when we can't supply the country with new fresh young bodies to be able to do the work that the elderly people can't do?
That's honestly, that's partially what it looks like the Dems are trying to do. It looks like they're trying to completely move like blue collar labor out of the US. And it's almost like they don't understand the repercussions that will come of that.
No, they don't. All you have to do is just go to any of these big cities and ask them, where does your food come from? And I guarantee a majority of them are going to say it comes from the supermarket. And if you ask them, okay, so it comes from the supermarket, where does the supermarket get the food? And they're just gonna be like, I don't know.
Don't know, don't care.
No, they don't. They have no idea about the consequences that could stem up from losing out on all the blue collar workers. I mean, hell, I have an even better view on the cultural gentrification and the cultural bifurcation of this country. And it's still stemming on the whole endocrine disruptors and all the plastics that we're ingesting. You've got states like California, and I believe it was also Washington, where in the 2030s they are completely outlawing the use and the sale of, what is it? Of
Cars?
yes, of
Motor
cars.
vehicles?
Yes, they are completely outlawing it, so where you have to use electric vehicles.
I believe it's not Washington. I believe it's New York as well. Something funny about that, Wyoming is actually banning all electric vehicles by
Yes.
2030 because it is because it is ruining their country's oil and gas industry. So they plan to phase out all electric vehicles by 2030. I was like, very, very based Wyoming, extremely based if you ask me.
I mean, look at California. They're saying that they need to ban the use of ban the use of gas stoves, ban the use of gas powered cars. But then within the same breath, they're saying, "Oh, well, you can't really charge your electric vehicle today because our grid just can't handle it. We don't have the infrastructure
That
to completely
would
switch
never
to it."
happen.
So what's going to happen to a truck driver that's supposed to deliver goods from the agricultural base of the US, from where all the food comes? What's going to happen when they have to deliver to California? Are they just going to say, no, you're not allowed to come here? Or what happens if they're low on fuel? They're not going to be able to refill up if they're trying to ban it all. So the people are just going to go hungry? Or are you going to have the truck drivers just refuse to go there?
Which would, by extension, make them go hungry.
Yes.
Unless they're gonna send a fleet of Teslas to bring all the stuff in there. I think they're just gonna go hungry, and they don't realize that. Hell, even I didn't really think of that. I've kind of the only thing I really think of when they say that is that's stupid. But when you actually put it into that perspective, it's even stupider. But I didn't think of that.
Oh yeah. It's it's very very scary, very upsetting to see where everything's going. Damn, we have been all over the place tonight.
Well, yeah, I mean it's you just kind of follow the conversation.
That's true. That's true. It's been a good conversation.
As it has been indeed, it has been indeed.
Uh, so getting more on the well, do you want to keep talking about the cultural divide in the country between rural and city folks, or anything else you want to talk about
I mean,
that
we
has to
can
deal with
we
it?
can just talk about the culture in general. You don't need to talk about something particular. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I would personally, I think, yeah, now that I think about it, it might be better to get into a real deep, full conversation on culture when we have Wyatt and Trevor here, just because I'm curious what they have to say, especially Wyatt. Wyatt is a strange individual. Um, so that would be, I think that'd be pretty fun, or more so to get in something more so to get into once they are here.
I agree
So
because I know you and I we differ between our thoughts on it. You have a much more optimistic view on humanity, whereas I have a much more pessimistic view on humanity as a whole.
oh yeah, that's a whole other conversation. That's a we'll let that flow. We'll let that show up when when it makes sense. I'd say for just the two of us, we got a lot done here today, though. I think we've said our piece, though.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to keep to drag on a conversation. It'll make it seem forced. So, with
Yeah.
just the two of us today, we went through the Chinese spy balloon or EMP balloon, whatever you want to call it.
Well, it wasn't an EMP. That was just my
I know. I
concern.
know. I was trying to make a little
I
joke.
just don't want people to yeah, fact check these guys with 3 viewers.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
All
That's
right.
why I got too close to Ukraine.
Yeah, exactly. All right, though. But I will thank everybody for watching the podcast here tonight. The people who did. I hope to catch you all next time. We'll talk to you later.